My wife betrayed me, and my mother sided with her. Years later, I made them regret it. Recently, I called my former alcoholic wife for lapsing. While she was asleep, I found messages between her and a close friend, revealing she was having an affair. Initially, I couldn't believe it. Devastated, I left home intending to end my life, but pulled myself together and spent the night outside instead. The next morning, my wife bombarded my phone with calls and texts, worried because my work van was still in the driveway. I lied, saying I had car trouble and I'll live to work. She believed me. I spent the day with a friend who advised me to keep a low profile and consult a lawyer. By the time I got home, exhausted, my wife was full of questions. I confronted her about the affair, calling her a disgusting cheater. She broke down, sobbing, and I walked away to shower. Afterwards, she tried to explain, claiming she was drunk and vulnerable, but I demanded a divorce and told her to move to the spare room. I've ignored her since, only scowling when she starts making excuses. Telling my parents what happened, my mother shockingly sided with my wife, insisting we work things out. I couldn't believe it. I met with a divorce lawyer and started the process. It's been 20 days since I discovered the affair, and my wife is still in the spare room, clearly not planning to leave. She's been trying to get my mother on her side, despite her lack of options. I don't feel responsible. I've opened my own bank account and taken half of our joint balance. The house has become a Cold War zone, and I've been practicing the 180 approach, being civil but distant. One day, I found my wife crying in the bathroom. I helped her up and gave a comforting, but emotionless hug. Suspicion now colors everything. I even doubt her genuine distress. She keeps saying she'll do anything to save the marriage, so I suggested a lie detector test to gauge her reaction. She initially agreed, but later tried to back out, citing their inaccuracy. I exposed my cheating friend on social media, and our mutual friends have cut ties with him, which is somewhat comforting. Discussing this with my mother led to an argument. She revealed she sees my wife as the daughter she never had. My mother wants me to reconsider, but I'm determined to proceed with the divorce. Feeling ill at the thought of living with my wife, I packed my things while she was at a hospital appointment and moved out. I left the house keys and divorce papers on the kitchen table and blocked both my wife's and mother's numbers. I'm now staying with a friend, hoping to get my own place soon. My mother's betrayal feels almost worse than my wife's. Despite explaining why my wife's texts hurt so much, my mother still doesn't understand. After my last text to her, I blocked her number too. I feel utterly let down and don't think I'll ever speak to her again. Months later, I moved 15 miles away, changed my phone number, and continued with the divorce. My wife ignored all communication from my lawyer, so we're proceeding without her cooperation. Then, I got a call from my best friend. My dad needed to contact me because my mother was in the hospital. Despite my reservations, I agreed to visit her. Seeing my mother so frail was shocking. She had taken a serious fall, and it was hard to reconcile this with my anger towards her. She insisted on mending our relationship, but her refusal to see my perspective on my wife left me feeling unchanged. I told her I no longer wanted the house. It held only bad memories for me. I stayed for under an hour and left, telling my dad I might stay in touch. Returning home, my emotions were all over the place, but I'm glad I went. I still think about my wife and what she once meant to me. It will always hurt. Now, I'm in the final stages of divorce. My wife finally signed the papers and agreed to move out. My mother is recovering well, but I haven't spoken to her. I told my dad I want the house in my name for security before we rebuild any bridges. Therapy and talking to a psychiatrist have helped me process everything. One phrase from my psychiatrist stuck with me: your best years are the years you've got left. It reminds me that the past is gone, and I can choose to make the most of the present. Officially divorced now, I feel a weight lifted, but also a sense of finality. I ran into my ex-wife recently, and it brought back a flood of sadness. I missed the person I thought she was, but that person never really existed. I refuse to carry hatred in my heart. It will only burden me. I've heard rumors my ex-wife was unfaithful before, but it's irrelevant now. The hardest part has been dealing with my parents, especially my mother. I feel complete apathy towards them. My dad is trying to reconnect, but I'm not interested. The most significant event was a near-death experience. A minor cut turned into a severe infection, possibly sepsis. Accepting I might die brought a strange calmness. This acceptance applies to my betrayal, too. Once you accept that something is over, you can move forward. Losing everything can free you to do anything. I've embraced this mindset and am ready to build a new life without the burdens of the past.